Okay, today we're going to look at the Sekonic StudioDeluxe 3 light meter. This light meter has been in use for decades by photographers and directors of photography. I used this when I was going through film school, and it's still in use today, and it actually works really well. The nice thing about it is that you don't need a battery, meaning that you can just take it anywhere without having to worry about batteries dying or having something digital to work with. It's a simple calculator that will just show you the exposure of light. So the reason that we like to use a light meter, especially when you're first starting to learn how to shoot with a camera, is that it creates what's called a light memory, meaning that you can take readings, you can understand the quality of light, you can understand the reflectivity of light, and then you can take that, you can measure it, calculate it, and you'll have that banked in your memory for the next time you're on set. Meaning you can look at a light and you can be like, okay, I know exactly what the contrast ratio is between the key light and the fill light. So it's something that's very powerful to learn. So really it's about observation, meaning that when you look at a light or if you look at a room, you can kind of tell what that f-stop's going to be depending on your situation. It's great to start with, but I still use it when I do a lot of my shoots still today, just to get whatever that light is, and I don't have to rely on the camera. I think a light meter allows you to really understand the nuances of how it all works. So let's go through this light meter from top to bottom and get you to understand exactly how I use it. So first off, you see this top part. This is what's called the lumisphere. Now the lumisphere, it's on kind of a rotating base, so you can turn it away from you to make a reading. But it's in the shape of a human face. So when you do take a measurement of a light, it's going to give you different ratios. You can see that the light's hitting from over here, but there's a different ratio over here happening. So it's a little bit darker. So the main light actually comes in through the top, or through the front, I should say. The main light comes in through here. You have backlight that comes through here, and then you have your fill light that comes around here. And it gives you the most accurate reading as far as those parameters. So behind the lumisphere is actually a light sensor. You can actually take this off by lining up the two white dots. And the light sensor obviously takes in the reading, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty basic. If you don't have this on there, obviously it's not going to work. There are other discs that you can put on here to create a different, you have a flat disc and you have a Luma grid, which will allow you to get different types of readings, spot readings and that type of thing. But we're going to use the lumisphere because it just seems to be the most common use with the light meter. If we go from the top to the bottom of the meter underneath the lumisphere, you can see the first few numbers here from 0 to 1.25K. Those are foot candles, so that's your intensity of light. As you move down, you can see those same numbers are repeated actually right here, and that's how you actually take your measurement. But before we do anything, we want to make sure that we zero out the meter, because this red needle that's right here needs to be at 0, so you're going to get the most accurate reading. So you can do it one of two ways. You can either cover it with your hand, or you can use just a cloth. You can cover that. And this button right here, you press this, you depress it. When this comes shipped, a lot of times it's actually depressed all the way, but you can actually click it and it will move. You can see the red needle moved, and if I take it off, it'll go to read a light. If I obviously put it over the top again, it's going to go down. So we want that to go to 0, which it looks like it's at 0 right now. Now, if you want continuous light to measure, you press this button down and you turn it clockwise, and it will allow you to move it in and out of the light, and the meter needle will go back and forth. But for now, we just want to depress it once and get that reading. Okay, so let's zero the meter again, just by covering it, and it is at 0. Now, if you do zero it the first time, and it doesn't go all the way to 0, which this one does, what you want to do is you need to reset it. So on the back of the meter, you have this 0 adjust screw. And so the further it is away from 0, the more you want to go to the left with the screw to actually 0 adjust it. You don't want to overdo that because obviously you'll get an improper reading. But right now it looks like we're pretty close. So you basically just use a coin and turn that to the left or the right depending on where that needle's sitting. Now if we go down, the next thing you see is this little red arrow right here. And that's called the memo marker. That allows you to take a reading, set that marker, so you can actually put it wherever, right? And this is the bottom. There's actually 3 discs, and the very bottom one here is that memo marker. As you can see, it moves. The next one is actually where you're going to do all the readings from, and the next one is your ISO. So that memo marker is good if you do a reading, let's say, and you need to move it to where that needle is, and then you take a second reading, and you can see you have this ratio between these two. So it just reminds you of exactly where you were before. Okay, so let's zero it again. I'm going to press the button down until it goes to 0 and release. And before we actually take a shot, we want to make sure our ISO is set correctly. If your ISO isn't set correctly on this meter, you're not going to get an accurate reading. And the way you do that is this very top disc turns, as you can see, and your ISO is actually inside this little square box right here. So I'm at an ISO 800, so I'm going to actually click it to the 800, and then we're just going to take a simple reading. That's it as far as setting that up. So I'm going to shoot it at this light, take a reading, and so we're close to 160. So between 80 and 160, if we look at 80-foot candles and 160-foot candles, there's a little marker in between that. So basically it goes 80, 100, 125, 160. And I will give you a handout that actually shows you the increments of that because it's a little difficult. But you can basically line it up with whatever you have here. So the first thing you do once you take that reading is this little black arrow right here. You want to line up whatever this number is with the black arrow and these numbers here. So if I go down to right between 125 and 160, there's my reading, the black arrow. So you have two different readings here. You have the red cine, which is what we're going to actually work with, and then you have shutter speed. And this works for video, but it also works for photography mainly. But what we're going to do is actually work on the red cine scale because that gives us a 24 frames per second. So I'm shooting at 24 frames per second, and if I go here to 24 and I follow this arrow down, the red arrow, it says that I'm an f8. And that's it. As long as my ISO is correct and my frames per second is correct, then I'm good to go. So let's say you're shooting outside. You won't be able to use the way the light meter is set up right now to do that because the sun is so powerful. It's going to go off the scales as far as the foot candles, the way they're configured right now. So the nice thing about this meter is that on the back of it, you have what's called a high slide. You take this out, and this will allow you to actually essentially put a neutral density filter within in the meter itself. So what you do is you slip it into this top slot right here, click it in, and then you can take your reading. So if I take a reading right now, you can see it's really, the meter is way low. But if I was within the sun, let's say it went up to 160 foot candles, what I would do is instead of using the black arrow here to measure my foot candles, I would use this red H arrow here to measure my foot candles. So if it goes up to 160, I'm just going to turn my meter to 160 on the red H. And if I'm shooting at 24 frames per second, I can go down and can see what my f-stop is, which right now it says 45. And that's pretty high. So what I would do is I'd say, okay, I'm at an 800 ISO, so since we're outside, I'm going to change my ISO to 200. So I'm just changing the ISO here. And now if I take that 160 and I measure it up with 24 frames per second, now I'm at f22, which is a little bit more palatable for what I'm doing. Of course, at that point, if you even want to lower your f-stop, then you're going to have to start modifying it with neutral density filters, your camera, and that will take different high slides, which come optional with the meter. A couple other accessories that actually come with the meter are the Luma disc and a Luma grid. So the Luma disc is flat, and it gives you more or less fill light readings, but it allows you to, you attach it the same way as you do the Luma sphere, and you're basically trying to get contrast ratio. You can experiment with this to see what kind of readings you get, but it's typically you're going to be using the Luma sphere. This allows you to get a little bit more accurate reading when it comes to your fill light. The other one is the Luma grid, and it's more of an incident light measurement, which means you point this directly at the hottest part or a brighter part of the face, and you get a fairly accurate reading. So it's not an overall light measurement like the Luma sphere, but it allows you to get a spot reading. Okay, well, that was a quick overview of the Sekonic light meter. Hopefully you learned something about it, and you can experiment as much as you want with it. So get out there and experiment and shoot some amazing video.